All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Gwen McDaniel, and I will be presenting Without Words, How Sky Children of the Light Created Community Without Speaking a Word. And I am recovering from a little cold, so apologies if I'm a bit congested. So online gaming traditionally has sort of a negative reputation. This quote here is from Genova Chen, the founder of that game company, in which he expresses, most other players I ran into in online games, they had no interest in becoming friends or in sharing feelings with me. It felt very lonely. I had three major sources for my literature review. All three of them spoke about the lengths that people will go through to try and form some form of connection with people online. Traditionally, online games try to circumnavigate that with global chat, but it doesn't always go well, and I'll get a little more into that in a moment. And so this quote in 2013 was spoken at an annual DICE summit, which is essentially TED Talk for game developers. And Genova Chen here proposed, what can we do to help people form connections in video games? And like I mentioned, traditionally, global chat is the solution to that, but it can result in a lot of advertising, people trying to sell things. It can result in trolling, people just being silly and being dumb. Or sometimes you can just get downright negativity and toxicity in these chats. So Genova Chen's solution to that was the 2012 game Journey. Journey was very revolutionary and took great strides in helping people learn how to communicate in a more supportive, helpful way. But unfortunately, due to time restraints, I don't have a ton of time to talk about that today. So the reason it's relevant for this conversation is because it led to the creation of Sky Children of the Light, which is the game that I will be focusing on for the rest of my presentation. So I'm just going to play the launch trailer here as I talk a little bit about what Sky is so that you guys can get a sense of the game and how it plays. And let's try a little audio here, see if it's okay. So Sky launched in 2019 for the iOS, and it very quickly expanded to Android, Switch, PlayStation, and most recently PC. The story of the game is that you're dropped in a desolate, abandoned world where you are tasked to cleanse the darkness and to cure the spirits of the dead. Along the way, you're reborn. So as the game progresses and you reach the end of it, you end up being reborn. And this time you're given a new task. And that task is to help guide others through the world and help teach them what you've learned. The game recognizes the shortcomings of global chat, and it introduces an alternative to that, which is a very in-depth emote system. And it just completely cuts out that chat feature altogether. So the only way that you can chat with another player using text is by paying a small amount of in-game currency to unlock that feature. And the person who you unlock it with, both parties have to consent to, yes, I want to be able to chat with you. And if at any point you decide that you're not interested, you've changed your mind about this person, you can lock it and you don't have to chat with one another anymore. So this very interesting mechanic, I've never seen another game like this. This led me to my research question of how do the restrictions on communication in Sky Children of the Light affect the development of the community? My research methods, I relied very heavily on interviews. I had 7 interviews. Each one ran about 60 to 90 minutes in length, although some of them were as short as 45 minutes, and I had some as long as 2.5 hours. It really just depended. People were very passionate about this game, and they loved to talk about it and share their experiences. And so for that reason, I chose to go with a very semi-formal mode of interviewing that just allowed for a lot of tangents and give people a lot of time to like share their little stories. And it gave me some really lovely data. I also had some participant observation sessions. So I played the game and observed how do people interact within the game? How is this interaction different from some of the fan sites that have been created for the game? When I was watching the groups of people, I would ask myself, how often do these groups have chat unlocked with each other? Do they appear to know each other, or do they seem to be just meeting for the first time? How do newcomers approach these groups? Those are some of the things that I was especially interested in figuring out. And it is important to note that I've been playing Sky since 2022, so I do have an insider status with the game. So what did I find? I found that most of my interviewees mentioned using Sky as a way to relax and kind of wind down after a long day. A bit of self-care to call back to a previous topic. Several of my interviewees mentioned being really socially awkward. They have a hard time engaging with other players, and Sky gave them a place to stretch their socialization skill while also not having to worry about doing too much. They know that people there are going to be pretty supportive of them and kind. Most of them who do play other games, they say they usually ignore the in-game chat. Or if they do pay attention, it's because they are playing with a specific person and they need to know what that person's doing. So like one person mentioned playing World of Warcraft, and they would complete raids with other people where they would all go and complete a task together. And in those instances, you have to pay attention to what the other people are saying and doing. But for the most part, they tend to ignore that. So they did mention, though, that if other games offered these restrictions on chat like Sky has, they would probably be more likely to explore other options and see what else is out there. But they also mentioned that these restrictions aren't the only thing that keeps them playing Sky. It's not the only reason that they feel the community is so supportive. The emotes are a big one that got brought up a lot. Emotes are effectively pre-programmed little actions that your character can do, things like clapping your hands, waving, or doing a little dance. And these are used to sort of communicate general moods or encourage others to do something to show thanks to them. But unfortunately, Sky has over 150 emotes. Wow. And that can be really hard to navigate sometimes. So a lot of players mentioned that they would like to see that system recategorized to make it easier to communicate with others. I also found that this purpose of trying to encourage socialization and cooperation was built into the very structure of the game. Many events, like this event here, it's referred to as the geyser event, and it effectively has players gather together, and then this geyser will shoot out little stones of darkness that you get to run around and collect. And those darkness stones give you in-game currency, which allow you to progress your friendships with others and to unlock more cosmetics to customize your appearance. So here we have a group of players at these events, and there's a lot of downtime during these events to just spend time socializing, having fun. This group, we've collected a bunch of crabs and we're all crab walking around it, just having a good time. Sky also makes good use of third spaces, which are just locations that don't serve a purpose other than existing there, and giving you an opportunity to exist with them. Sky also uses a very interesting guide mechanic in which new players can indicate that they're lost, they're confused, and this will let more experienced players know that they can take this player's hands, guide them around the world, and help them find secrets. And lastly, since Sky is very focused on movements, as the name might imply, there's a lot of flying involved. And so being close to other players actually allows you to fly farther, fly better. There are certain stunts that you can only pull off if you're with groups of other people. So that mechanic right there is another big reason for people to socialize. So in conclusion, online gaming tends to be very stressful and high energy, and that makes it isolating for a lot of people who struggle to socialize, who struggle with that extroverted nature. The access to global chat doesn't really help those matters, as it allows people to troll and be negative. But Sky Children of Light tries to solve that issue and give people a place to unwind by encouraging restriction on chat, small server sizes, and casual exploration-based gameplay. I'd like to give a big thank you to Nancy Everhart, my advisor. I probably wouldn't have made it this far without her guidance and support. Thank you to Team Nancy, Kaylin, Sora, and Farida. Love being able to bounce my ideas off of you guys, get your feedback. Massive thank you to my interviewees. You guys are what inspired me to work on this project. And of course, thank you to the staff at that game company for creating Sky and inspiring so many people. Yeah.
In thinking of like the implications of this game, it kind of reminds me of like Twitter, which is like now X or whatever, and how like, you know, we've seen like lots of back and forth on like different regulations for chat and how that can impact like the kind of like things that the platform is used for, like misinformation or designating trans folks, like stuff like that. So I was wondering, I don't know, just kind of like, yeah, how you see like this in-game chat community building strategies in conversation with online community as well.
Yeah, so there's definitely been some experimentation with what is and isn't allowed with in-game chat. I did find that a lot of people do take to fan sites if they find that chat is too restrictive. For example, the in-game chat doesn't allow people to post links or URLs, which means that if you want to share a friend code with somebody and add them as a friend, you have to do that through an outside site or pay in-game currency to do that. So if someone wants to add a friend, especially if it's a newer player who doesn't have as much currency saved up, they will often reach out to them on a fan site in order to do that. The game has also experimented a lot with like what kinds of language are allowed and what isn't allowed. They have, I believe, different restrictions in place based on how many people you have chat unlocked with in your server. So if you're with a lot of people, you're not allowed to cuss. You're not allowed to say like the name of social media websites. But if it's like just you and one other, chat's a little more free. Yeah.
We touched a bit on the emotes and how large it is. I'm actually curious if you could expand a bit more on that, and like, was it that people were actually arguing that maybe less emotes would be better, or what did you tend to get?
I think so. The current system, it saves, I believe, the 6 most recently used emotes at the top of the list, but otherwise it is just a long list that you have to scroll through to find the specific emote that you want. And a lot of people have expressed that it takes them forever to try to find the one that they want to use with people. And I know that game company has been working on trying to find a way to reorganize that and set it up in a way that makes it quicker and easier for other people to find those emotes. So I don't think it's the amount of emotes that's necessarily the issue, but how long it takes people to find. All right, in the back, and then
So we spoke about the limitations of communication. If I was a new player wanting to join this game and I heard about like the social gathering, let's say I had anxiety, do you think that like, did any of your participants talk about like how, because you have to be comfortable, like how does it go about with the wanting to communicate with a new friend? Like, you have to pay, but like, how do you choose? How does the player choose to interact, and how does that go about when you're a person who is unfamiliar of making new friends, but then you have these limitations, so you have these components in order to reach that. So do you think that like as the maker of the game that they should change that or should they keep that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's something that is worth considering, for the developers. A lot of the people who I interviewed, they mentioned that they had friends who brought them into the game, so they knew these people beforehand, and that kind of helped them get their foot in the door. I know for me personally, I'm also very socially awkward. I had a really hard time approaching players in game, so I went to YouTube and I found some really awesome people who talked about the game and introduced like, here are some ways that you can meet people in the game and get to know other people. So there are definitely sources out there. In game, it's not super well communicated. There are, if you're reluctant to unlock chat with someone, like say you're just getting to know them or you want to know if they need help with something, there are limited locations in the game where you can chat for free. But there's time restraints placed on those, so it's only like 4 or 5 minutes a piece. But that is an opportunity for people to sort of meet someone, get to know whether they're interested in interacting with this person or not.
There's restriction on cursing and stuff like that, right?
Yes, yep.
I know you mentioned like the outside like fan sites, and I know you did like your interviews through Tumblr. But do like those online communities follow like the same rules as like the game, do you find? Especially since they're like going into this game specifically, not specifically, but like primarily for that reason.
Yeah, I do find that the environments are definitely very similar. It's a very supportive space. The two that I'm most active in are on Tumblr and on Discord. And people are it's very cozy, very homely, like very homey there. I would have loved to talk about it a little more in depth in my presentation, but due to time restraints, I didn't have to put that section out. But some of the common interactions I observed there were people creating fan characters for the game and sharing them and interacting with other people's fan characters. I saw people theorizing about the game's story. A lot of in the Discord communities, I saw a lot of people reaching out to specifically newer players and offering to help them learn the game, help them obtain more expensive, hard to find cosmetics and items. So I do find that the fan communities tend to copy the nature of the game pretty closely.
Thank you.